Everyone, hello, and welcome to another quarterly rig event. Glad to have you in person. We have just a couple of slides of announcements associated with rig activities. As a reminder why we have a rig in the first place for geothermal rising. Quick check online. Can people on the phone hear me?
Yes.
Success. And through the screen too, I hope.
Yes.
Thank you. Just a quick introduction to the Colorado rig. There's 6 people on the planning committee who work on organizing each of our quarterly events and the other activities we organize throughout the year, corresponding with amazing people like Amanda Kolker to come have her give a presentation about what's going on with NREL today. Organizing other very interesting events. I'll get into that in just one slide. But myself, Logan Hackett, with Geothermal, Emily Gentry with Tavera, Tiana, who is here with us. Tiana, thank you. With NREL, Eric Stockberg, who's with the School of Mines, Jim Clyburn with Bedrock Petroleum Consultants, and Jessica Quintanar with GTO and Boston Government Services. All volunteering time to bring these things together and get us all in the same room together. And of course, bring people together online too. For geothermal information sharing, we try to make it specific to Colorado, but the industry is much bigger than Colorado. So we like getting geothermal enthusiasts together. We're all located here. So we like to go through the rig vision a little bit at the beginning of each year that we've been doing these activities. This is the 3rd year of the Colorado Regional Interest Group, bringing the industry together here in Colorado and being supported by Geothermal Rising. We're trying to bring together industry and academia and government to help raise awareness about technologies and interests in the geothermal industry, how that can apply to Colorado, status of the industry that applies here in Colorado. So we're working on rolling out more geothermal. It's an open forum for community members across the industry to be getting together and connecting. We want to really provide a forum for all geothermal champions to talk about how to further geothermal initiatives in the state, basically. So we're supporting education and opportunities in the state of Colorado. And it's an open forum. The 6 of us are on the planning committee. We're all volunteers. If people have ideas about what the planning committee and the rig should be doing to help bring the community together in Colorado, we're glad to hear about it. So reach out to us and participate as much as you wish. And we're glad you're here in person attending this event. So we have upcoming activities for 2025. Here we are, March 26th, with Amanda Kolker as our guest speaker. June 28th, Emily Gentry, who will take care of the next few slides for us with Tavera. She will have a presentation in June, again here at New Terrain Brewery. It's a great place for us to gather and drink a little beer as we talk geothermal. So we'll keep doing that for our quarterly events for a while. We're thinking about other meetings in other parts of Colorado. Last year, we had a Southwest Colorado event that was very well attended. Thinking about doing the same thing this year. All that information will be disseminated out through the rig distribution list. So keep an eye on those announcements about upcoming events. And if you're not on that distribution list, I can definitely help you find ways. There's even a QR code over there on the table to sign up for the distribution list, please. And make sure that you know about upcoming events. So if you have ideas, again, there's the email address to reach out to the rig and let us know how you think we can bring the geothermal community together in Colorado. Emily, you can use that or arrows.
Either way. Well, also out on our events, we did last month just a casual happy hour, and it seemed that people really liked that. That GCB, huge turnout, so I think we'll probably do another one, especially with the weather getting nice. Just come, show up, buy a beer or a few and enjoy. All right, so I'm gonna speak about Wing real quick. If you haven't heard about Wing, it is Women in Geothermal. It is aimed to really promote the education and support diversity, quality within the geothermal industry. It's for men and women. We really need our wing men to help support that diversity. And so if you are not a member yet, highly suggest you join. It is free. We have a few events through the year, mostly around conferences. We do online webinars as well, all sorts of different things, but it's just a good organization to be a part of, and it's one of the larger geothermal organizations. Next meeting, I will try to have the little wing pins. You will see those at conferences. I didn't get them in time, so next time look out for that. If you scan the QR code on this side, that is to register to become a wing member. And then coming up, what we have going on right now is every other month we have a webinar series that's focusing on leadership skills, those soft skills, and how to really lift off with wing, lift off with your leadership, and build those for all different career levels. So whether you're already in a leadership position or looking to become a leader in the future, it has really good skills and really good speakers that we're bringing in. Speaking of wingmen, our next speaker will be on May 5th. And to get into the festivity, it's called Cinco de Wingman. Paul came up with that name. 5 crucial aspects of being a male advocate for wing mission. And so highly suggest everyone take this, because one of my questions has always been, what is the point of a wingman? What is your responsibility? What can you do? Or the females in your company or just around you. And so this is a really good kind of mini training that you will get. Tell your coworkers about it. It's free. It's an hour. We usually have some networking with it too online. So tune in. QR code is at the top if you want to register. And we can put this up at the end too if you guys need that. So with that, that leads me into our speaker, Dr. Amanda Kolker. She has been a longtime member and supporter of Wing. But she also has more than 15 years of experience as a geothermal geoscientist, with experience in hydrothermal resource exploration and characterization. With a background in volcanology and igneous petrology, Dr. Kolker has worked in academia, government, and private industry in the United States and abroad. She joined NREL in 2019 as a research geoscientist and has led NREL's geothermal program since 2022. That, Amanda, welcome you up.
Thanks, Emily. Thanks, Logan. Hi, everyone. I think I know a lot of you here. For those who don't know me, my name's Amanda Kolker. Thank you for the nice introduction. I work at NREL, which is here in Colorado, up at about 2 miles from here in Golden. NREL stands for the National Renewable Energy Lab. And today I'm going to talk to you about what we did at NREL in geothermal. You might know some of this, you probably don't know all of it, and mostly focused on some highlights. It's not comprehensive about everything we do, but I did try to make it a little Colorado specific if I could. But we are NREL, we're actually Colorado's only national lab. There's 17 national labs in the US. We are the only one focused on renewable energy technologies exclusively. It's, I guess I did want to make a little plug that, you know, right now there's a question about the, you know, utility and value of the national lab. So if you get a chance to talk to any of your Congress people or anything about the value of national labs in geothermal, please remind them that NREL does a lot of work there. So yeah, Emily kind of covered it. I have about 15 years of experience in geothermal. I started out doing consulting geology, mostly focused on hydrothermal resources. And then, and I also taught some classes on geothermal energy. And then I kind of switched to working in mostly direct use when I moved to Europe, and also looking at the crossovers between sort of subsurface science of oil and gas and geothermal technology, geothermal resources in sedimentary basins, and also tech transfer there. And then, like Emily said, I joined NREL about 6 years ago, and I run the geothermal program. And so our program, our mission is to advance geothermal energy through strategic analysis, scientific research, development and demonstration of innovative technologies, and tech transfer through strategic partnerships. So our group, I'll show you a picture of them in a minute, but our group covers a really broad span of capabilities, everything from, you might know us, especially around our techno-economic analysis of different geothermal technologies. But we also do work in geothermal exploration, resource discovery, subsurface characterization, modeling. We also do kind of surface side stuff, so systems engineering and design for power sector, direct use, heating and cooling, even ground source heat pump stuff. And then we have a lot of capabilities around data science, artificial intelligence, machine learning. A lot of you might know our work in database curation through the Geothermal Data Repository. And then we have a lot of expertise in regulatory policy market analysis. And we do a lot of, more recently been doing a lot of technical assistance and workforce development. And so we work mostly with the Department of Energy. And our primary, client collaborator is the Geothermal Technologies Office there, but we also work with other DOE offices, plus other federal agencies. We work actually a lot with BLM. One of my colleagues is here from BLM. We work a lot with Department of Defense, who you probably are aware has an intense interest in geothermal right now. Other federal agencies, and then we actually do a lot of work with private industry and with state agencies and municipalities. A lot of people don't know that. They think we just work federally, and that's not the case. So this is kind of a snapshot of our geothermal team. It's, like I said, really global experts from all over the world with expertise in all sorts of different technology types, spanning from shallow geothermal to super hot and deep geothermal, and then also in the market and policy and grid integration modeling space as well. So I wanted to just call out the NREL people here today. I think there's, you guys want to raise your hand? Six of us. So pretty awesome team. And we work on the full potential of geothermal technologies, which we like to depict in this cartoon here. So we work on, like I said, kind of discovering new resources, and those might be conventional hydrothermal, they might be, petrothermal or EGS or closed loop type resources. My specialty is super hot resources. We have a group looking at that. And then we, kind of evaluate a suite of technologies going from power generation into hybrid technologies. So, NREL works on a lot of different renewable technologies, and we have done a lot of work looking at hybridizing those with geothermal. You're probably aware right now there's an interest in critical material or critical mineral production from geothermal, notably lithium. This is an area of interest of ours as well. And then down kind of towards the right, down temperature, we do a ton of work in heating and cooling at the district scale, at the individual building scale. Using a variety of different technologies, both kind of tried and true, old school to pretty innovative and cutting edge. And we're interested in using the subsurface medium, right? Because like extracting heat from geothermal formations is hard, right? We all know that. But the insulative properties of the earth are pretty great. So we do a lot of work in trying to figure out how we can use the subsurface as like a storage mechanism, whether that's for thermal energy, mechanical energy, chemicals, things like that. And combined with geothermal injection, for example, is an interesting way to store. So we have 3 pillars in our research program, resources and technologies, and we think of geothermal as a triple resource. So obviously it's an energy resource, it's an energy resource of heat and power, but it's also a storage resource and it's also a mineral resource. Within our market acceleration research pillar, like I said, we do a lot of market policy analysis, a lot of work on regulatory, which probably everyone knows in this room has been a barrier for geothermal development in the US and worldwide. And then a lot of work around stakeholder engagement, education, outreach, workforce development, technical assistance, stuff like that. And then the last pillar is grid integration. And we're really focused on kind of showing the value of geothermal in present and future grids. What are those services that geothermal provides that tend to be undervalued? And so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to walk through a few project highlights from each of these pillars. So the first pillar is resources and technology. And I thought you guys might be excited to see a preview of a big project we've been working on for the past couple of years, but we're kicking off work with a big group looking at new resource geospatial data and working with the USGS a little bit on this. That includes uncertainty in geothermal resource availability. It includes, the full suite of new geothermal technologies that make different types of resources available. And we're translating those into geospatial supply curves that could be used for a series of different analysis, like I show you here. What is the levelized cost of electricity for a site at, for this example, at 6,000 meters, 6 kilometers. So that's kind of not a project, that's kind of a big kind of thrust and effort. And then we have a bunch of different projects looking at next generation geothermal technologies. So, where there are no hydrothermal resources, this is kind of the suite of technologies that are emerging. Probably talked about this in Colorado Rig in the past, I'm guessing. So specifically enhanced geothermal system, closed loop geothermal systems, and then super hot geothermal, which is not really a next generation technology as much as it's a new resource type that's enabled by next generation technologies in terms of access. So you probably have recognized this picture. This is the Forge site in Utah, which is the Frontier Observatory for Research in Geothermal Energy that was developed with DOE support to test and validate stimulation technologies for geothermal with a lot of success. The next kind of generation of that is, you probably are aware, there were 3 new EGS demonstration sites recently selected by the Department of Energy. We are involved in one of those sites, which is in Newberry Volcano in Oregon. So we're really excited about demonstrating hydroshearing and different types of simulation techniques in super hot environments. And super hot being, defined as above 374 degrees C, where water becomes supercritical. That's going to kick off pretty soon here. The other piece is we're working with Colorado School Mines and Baker Hughes on a Forge project that's, instead of being focused on hydraulic stimulation and fracturing, it's focused on chemical stimulation, which is a EGS technique that's actually been successfully used in France. But it was kind of easier because France had carbonate-filled fractures, so chemical stimulation works really well with that. Forge is going to be a different story, but we have a lot of ideas with our Colorado partners on how to use chemical stimulation even in like a salinity environment. So those are some EGS projects kicking off. I have here Kunrad, who's been working with Cornell for about a really long time, actually, on developing EGS to support district heating on their campus, which is like a lesser known, lesser discussed application of EGS. And so Cornell drilled a deep test well starting in 2023 that basically tries to demonstrate that EGS can be used for district heating purposes. And we're still looking at the feasibility through the borehole tests and data collection, analysis, and reservoir simulations to kind of make sure that this is a project that the university wants to get behind. This is a nice graphic showing what the EGS configuration might look like. Were the wells to be drilled horizontally into the formation that was identified? Kunrad, we were wondering with Logan, was this developed also using ResFrac?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. We also do work in closed loop system modeling and evaluation. This is also some work from Kunrad. And this is an example of a model that NREL developed called the slender body theory. It was used to evaluate specific actually, I shouldn't say specific, it was used to evaluate lots of different closed loop designs. I show here the Everloop 2.0, which you're probably familiar with, and used to kind of look at the reservoir performance over time. And you can see, you know, probably the expected decline in the first 5 years of production. And then sort of the thermal gradient of the site kind of dictates the amount of, or the temperature over time from this model. More recently, we've put together with a couple other institutions shown here, other national labs, plus a couple universities, a web-based tool called the GeoCluster tool for the techno-economic assessment of closed loop systems. So that's really fun. I put the covered up by my screen sharing notification, but I put the address, the website there. It's really a really fun tool to go in and play with, nice interface. And that kind of allows for rapid, you know, screening type assessments of closed loop geothermal systems for a given site. So in my personal view, I think one of the next frontiers for next generation technologies, whether they're EGS or closed loop, and also for hydrothermal, is super hot, right? Which is the pure water becomes super critical at temperatures exceeding 374 C and pressures exceeding 22 megapascals. There's been a lot of modeling work shown, and even a little bit validated by some wells in Iceland, that if these fluids can be produced, they have the potential to boost a single well by 10 times the amount of output. Unfortunately, every single super hot well that's been drilled has collapsed. So haven't been able to get, you know, super long flow tests on any of them. But so it's still in early development. There's definitely significant field development and operational challenges in these deeper and hotter environments. So what you see is a map of the 3 IDDP wells in Iceland that have been, well, 2 have been drilled and 1 is planned. And those were all focused on naturally occurring supercritical systems, so hydrothermal fluids that have been heated up to these temperatures and pressures. And then also New Zealand has a similar program doing kind of resource exploration and modeling characterization of naturally occurring systems. What we're now seeing in the US, this is really recent, is a focus of a few DOE programs on application of next generation technologies to these types of environments. So there was a couple recent DOE opportunities in this space, and we're just really excited about getting more of the kind of science figured out there. Okay, so shifting gears, we don't just work on power, we also work on heat. I know been a bunch of changes recently to facilitate the uptake of this technology, which is really not that new of a technology. It's kind of a new twist on an old technology. It optimizes the cost, efficiency, and uptake, specifically around renewable sources. There's a lot of geothermal ones in Europe that have replaced older fossil-based district energy systems. So that's not new. And decentralize the production of heating and cooling across this distribution network. So the surface kind of looks the same, but the subsurface is actually a distributed network of geo-exchange boreholes. And so here's a kind of cartoon of what these look like. They're also called 5th generation systems, which refers to the ambient loop that's kind of a central part of the system. So rather than having, you know, a hot water loop and a cold water loop, or maybe just a heating loop, you have an ambient loop, and then you hook your users onto that loop, and they might be a heat source or a heat sink, and then they can kind of add additional efficiency into the thermal distribution system. And it also allows the integration of a bunch of different distributed sources. So geothermal is often the backbone because of geothermal stability and reliability, but they often incorporate other heat sources and sinks, like waste heat from an incinerator, things like that, sewer heat sometimes. So this is something we've been really excited about at NREL, and we've seen a lot of a lot of uptake. You might be familiar with the project in Framingham, Massachusetts, which is the first utility scale demonstration of these systems.
And
Okay, thanks.
Hey, Logan, we're hitting the OK button up top. Yeah. Eliminate the problem.
something to get rid of up there.
Oh, it doesn't.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go. Sorry about that.
Can you move the little black square to the bottom right too? Because it covers a lot of your words.
Song and dance.
Perfect, thank you.
Oh, you guys should have told me earlier. How many of my brilliant titles had you missed?
I just made them up. They're really interesting.
So these are known as G10s. And we're doing a bunch of work at NREL with all sorts of stakeholders to model their performance, the geothermal thermal energy performance in places like mixed. These are super complex systems. Work with utilities on this particular configuration. And the reason why is because it's almost like a good service that these types of systems provide, and which is going to become very important with increased demand on our grid. So kind of moving that forward at NREL, mostly by working with stakeholders. Okay, shifting gears again, I mentioned storage. So the Earth as a thermal battery also is kind of not a new concept. This is a USGS figure that kind of shows all the different ways that the subsurface can store things. What I'm going to focus on, is your pointer? Yeah. I'm going to focus on the reservoir thermal piece. You can see it right in the middle there. The idea here is to use underground reservoirs for long. It can dispatch energy over really long timescales, seasonal timescales, which very few technologies can do. So we've been working on this with USGS and also with a bunch of other labs for several years now. We co-develop and test a particular technology called geologic thermal energy storage, or GeoTest. This, like I said, was a multi-lab DOE-funded program. Our main partners were Berkeley and Idaho National Labs. More recently with partners. So kind of 5 years of study was looking at, okay, is this even ever going to work? The technical feasibility of it. And if, and what is the range of geological settings where we could put these things in. Actually, sedimentary basins and specifically depleted oil and gas reservoirs were identified as really promising formations for this type of technology. And then the last couple of years was doing then the techno-economic analysis. Okay, we know it's technically feasible, but what's the LCOS of that, the levelized cost of storage? That looked favorable. So then we were recently funded to do a specific off-taker study of looking at this for data centers. So not necessarily the heating and cooling part, but data centers have a lot of cooling needs. In fact, it can be up to 40% of their energy consumption. And then if you can figure out how to dispatch that cooling requirement, that's actually one of the advantages of this technology, and it could be advantageous for data centers. So that's the most recent iteration of the work. But the concept is really just you put some energy in, so solar thermal, excess grid renewable electricity, waste heat, excess nuclear heat, you store it, and here, like I said, we talk about low temperature water reservoirs or depleted oil and gas reservoirs. Those are not the only type, but those are probably the best type that the studies identified. And you get energy out. So heating energy, then you have actually really good round trip efficiencies. Electricity, obviously, then you have conversion losses. But again, the advantage of this particular technology is there's really not that many others, if any, that can do long duration seasonal storage. Okay, and then the last area of NREL work is in this space, a little bit of a hodgepodge, but I call it geothermal crossover with subsurface resources. And what I'm talking about is oil and gas, geologic hydrogen, and critical minerals. Oh, and this picture is, who knows what this picture is? No NREL people. Anybody know what this picture is?
Hello.
That's right. These are the lithium piles, as far as I understand, from a lithium extraction project at the Salton Sea. So I'll start with oil and gas. So we've been part of this consortium called the Geothermal Energy from Oil and Gas Demonstrated Engineering Consortium. It's funded by the Department of Energy. It's led by Project Interspace. And Nicole here from NREL leads the subsurface data facet, which is really trying to, move along demonstration and deployment through a roadmap for technology and data transfer between the oil and gas and geothermal industries. So if you have a question on that project, Nicole can answer. We're also working a lot on the workforce adoption piece, and I know Deanna, you're doing a lot of work with that piece. So questions on that, talk to Deanna. And I think later this year, Interspace will release a giant technology roadmap that comes out of this project. So look for that. It should be exciting. We're also working with Oxy on this project called Glade. Have we talked about this at the Colorado rig yet? We should.
Yes, only lightly.
You guys will be a little busy this summer, right? So maybe after the summer, we should bug Oxy for a presentation on this. But this was also a DOE funded project with a lot of partners. Now I'm covering them up, Kate.
I think you can push the little slice on the left, to the left of the blue square, and it makes that littler. Oh, I guess that didn't help.
Who am I covering now? This might be an
No,
important.
to the left of the blue square.
No, we didn't even move.
There's a little white line to the left of the blue square. Doesn't that make it? There you go.
Oh, the minimize button.
Yeah.
Thank you. I can multitask. Everyone who works with me knows that's not true. So yeah, lots of partners, lots of amazing expertise being brought into this project that's led by Oxy and is drilling a doublet in the DJ Basin that is addressing the high cost of drilling. I think it's aiming to drill 20,000 feet, is that right? And the goal of the project is to increase the daily drilling rate of penetration by 25% or more. And it uses cutting edge, high temperature downhole tools, applies advanced cloud-based real-time drilling optimization, non-productive time reduction technologies. And so this is really supposed to demonstrate, the tech transfer from oil and gas and how we can drill better in geothermal by working with oil and gas and sedimentary basins. So I was gonna say, I heard that I think we have official spud data pretty soon now, and you'll be drilling through the summer, and we're all invited to go see it, right? But yeah, pretty exciting project. Advancing. Okay, bro.
Yeah, drop down. Yes.
Okay, thanks. Okay. Here's a project you actually heard about from Joanna last meeting. How many of you guys were here at the last meeting when Joanna talked about this? Oh, actually not too many. Okay. So Abra is leading this project. It's looking at using oil and gas wells for geothermal energy. And it's run by Gradient Geothermal. So the Blackburn oil field in Nevada, it's in a, high geothermal gradient area. They have a lot of very high water cut in their oil wells, disposes of thousands of barrels of hot water a day. And so we've been helping them with the simulation of power production from ORC type units. And now I think, Abra, you guys just kicked out phase 2, right? Where you're almost, okay, where you're gonna be actually building out the surface.
Yes.
Network, and the pilot.
Yep.
So that is ongoing in Nevada, and then, that's kind of a Colorado project since Gradient is Denver based. And then we're also doing something similar in Oklahoma with the, Oklahoma State University, and Hyunjun is the PI on that project. So ask Abra about Nevada, ask Hyunjun about Oklahoma. And that's a project where they're using existing oil and gas wells to actually just produce heat to send around to a local district heating network of schools and I think 250 homes. And we had some national labs working on it as well. And that analysis found that the district heating from repurposed oil and gas wells could result in $7 million in cost savings, which I think is kind of amazing to think about. Yeah, I just kind of wanted to plant a seed. We're doing. The hunt for geothermal resources and the hunt for geologic hydrogen. Generating these hydrogen resources in the subsurface are also mechanisms that generate geothermal resources. So. Oh, no. So radiolysis also results in, if there's, anomalous concentrations of radiogenic elements in the earth crust, then you'll get locally elevated regional geothermal gradients. So there's an overlap there. And then the serpentization mechanism of reduced iron reduction reactions actually is optimal at temperatures between 200 and 300 C. So and it need water to catalyze those reactions. So I don't think enough attention is being paid, and I know Justin agrees with me on this, on the interaction between geothermal and geologic hydrogen for those two main mechanisms. And then when it comes to mantle degassing, I think there's a lot less work on that right now, but obviously like volcanic systems are a huge place where mantle degasses. And so that also has some overlaps with geothermal resource exploration and characterization as well. So the other way that there's an overlap with geothermal is in stimulating, right? So a lot of the current focus of hydrogen, geologic hydrogen, is how do we stimulate it and how do we get it out of the ground from traps? And that obviously overlaps with EGS and potentially, oil and gas hydraulic fracturing as well. But there's a lot of there's a lot to know. This is very fundamental science right now. And I just really hope that the geothermal sector can benefit from some of this fundamental science that's hydrogen. So that's the seed. What did you do?
So click back on the slide, I think. You move your mouse, it's right now, it's on the black box. If you click back on the slide,
Oh,
I think then you should.
Share with everybody online.
what's that?
It looks so hard to share with them. Much to share with your kids.
Okay. I can talk about lithium extraction a little bit. There was a study done by Idaho National Lab pointing out some areas where geothermal brines have elevated concentrations of lithium in them. And then most recently, there was opportunity that the Office of Fossil Energy and GTO, the Geothermal Technologies Office, put out to look at some of those specific areas, notably Salton Sea, and then the Smackover formation in Arkansas and into other states as well. So this again is kind of work that's kicking off and then also there's some additional areas that we're going to be looking into too for enhanced lithium concentrations in geothermal brines, notably Utah. So this kind of gets more into the NREL approach to geologic hydrogen. Our efforts in 2025 are focused on the fundamental understanding of mechanical, chemical, biological, and thermal processes, specifically the iron-rich formation mechanism. And so we are building out experimental capabilities to be able to do the geochemical experiments on one hand, and then also to understand the role of biologic processes in potentially suppressing, metabolizing the hydrogen and suppressing its migration of subsurface. And so all of that would feed into then an approach towards stimulation. Okay, so those were highlights from our resources and technologies pillar. I'm thinking I'm taking lots of your time. So what I can do is go through all the slides on market acceleration or grid integration. I think I have fewer there. Or you can choose your own adventure and tell me what you want to hear. We're good? Okay. So you might be familiar with our geothermal energy in the United States market report, came out in 2021. We have an update coming. Faye in the back is leading that effort with Dio. And that's going to include a major overhaul in the distinction between geothermal heat pump and geothermal direct use. And then it's going to be a deep dive into national and local market drivers, policies and incentives that are enabling geothermal energy access. As well as the other stuff you saw from the market report before, where we have an update on the amount of, gigawatts produced in the US, PPA information, where projects are being developed, things like that. So here's just a quick preview. Hope it's okay, I'm sharing this. Here's our section on geothermal power. So you'll see, what I'm showing in the preview is the nameplate capacity of the different operators in the United States. And then one of the things that really struck me from the market report was the graph below, which shows the costs of geothermal over time. So if you look at, first of all, ATB stands for the annual technology baseline. Some of us were talking about that earlier. Annual technology baseline is an annual report NREL puts out for all renewable technologies, and geothermal, hydrothermal is in there, as well as geothermal EGS. And this is kind of an interesting story. According to the ATB, since between 2021 and 2024, hydrothermal costs have stayed the same or potentially even gone up. And then EGS costs have come down dramatically. So definitely might be a little controversial, and I'd be happy to talk with any of you about that, to know, what your take is on that, and why that might be happening, or why we might not have the right data. But this is a preview, and then this is just kind of a breakdown of where the costs are with respect to hydrothermal and EGS development. The other preview I wanted to show is Faith's work on policy and market data collection. So this report is going to identify state and U.S. territory policies for geothermal technologies, as well as deterrent policies for fossil fuels and regulatory policies. It's going to identify incentives, both at the state and the federal level, and even some utility level incentives, which I actually didn't even know that was a thing. And so here's just kind of a preview of what that might look like. Our regulatory and policy analysis group also maintains the RAPID toolkit, which I didn't put the acronym, I didn't spell out the acronym here. Do you know what the RAPID stands for? Okay, not just me, but it's a regulatory and policy tool where you can get, permitting information for your particular state. And lastly, we launched something called the GeoBridge this year, and in 2024, so I guess that's last year now. We launched it at GRC, and this is a kind of hub for geothermal information that provides easy access on a wide range of geothermal topics. And the vision behind GeoBridge was to kind of pool all the geothermal resources to people who might be somewhat new to geothermals and might not know exactly where to find stuff. Okay, and now shifting gears to our work in technical assistance, workforce development, stakeholder engagement. Deanna has some awesome slides about each one of these efforts. I didn't include them today, but we're doing lots of good work with, like I said, federal agencies providing technical assistance in geothermal. I only list federal agencies here, but that's not. A lot of these agencies that are listed are actually programs where they supply the assistance to communities. So like C2C, for example, this is a Clean Energy to Communities is a DOE program that links labs to communities on technical assistance for technologies. And then our workforce development program, we run geothermal collegiate competitions for the Geothermal Technologies Office, as well as prizes, which really kind of gets people who might not have ever worked in geothermal before, especially at the collegiate level, to have to spend a lot of time and energy and pay a lot of attention to what geothermal technologies are. And then there is going to be a big report coming out later this year on geothermal workforce assessment in the US. So look for that. And then we do a lot of work on stakeholder engagement and outreach. So Faith leads our effort in Colorado, I'll talk about in a minute. But we've also done that kind of work in Alaska and Hawaii in particular. That last one. The last one was the Colorado RSTEP Award. So this is a project we hope to get kicked off. This DOE is kind of stuck right now, but where NREL was going to work with the Colorado Energy Office and a bunch of Colorado agencies and stakeholders to focus on geothermal development in the state and advance it. Okay, so when it comes to state level collaboration on geothermal energy, a lot of us from NREL have worked really closely with different state energy offices on different things. Faith works a lot with the agencies, regulatory agencies. I've worked with the CEO a lot. We also worked a lot with the Keep Beneath Our Feet initiative. And right now we're kicking off a project that follows on our efforts in Alaska and Hawaii to bring together geothermal energy stakeholders. And so specifically what we're trying to do is understand perspectives on past, current, and future experiences with energy development, renewable energy technologies, not just geothermal, and also energy self-sufficiency, identify potential barriers to geothermal energy development in the state, and then identify solutions. And so NREL is going to be working with a voluntary Colorado Geothermal Council, which was a pretty successful mechanism that was set up in Hawaii, that's going to help kind of bring together the team and host listening sessions, educational outreach events, identify needs and gaps, develop and disseminate educational resources, things like that. So if you're interested in participating, hopefully a lot of you are, I would talk to Faith, who's here today, catch her after the talk, or her email address is on that slide. Okay, and lastly, I just have a few slides on what we do in grid integration, the role of geothermal in our energy system. So we just put together, this is a really complicated slide, but basically what this shows is the different technologies that are being integrated at NREL's Flatirons campus, which used to be known as the Wind Technology Center. You might have seen it going up to Boulder from Golden. It's, you see the wind turbines, but it's actually got a lot of capabilities around renewable energy systems and integrated set energy systems. It's called the Advanced Research on Integrated Energy Systems platform. And most recently, we've been emulating a geothermal power plant to be able to integrate it and explore what like a hybrid geothermal system might look like. And also evaluate the types of services geothermal provides the grid in a very robust way that can be modeled over hourly type timescales or even higher resolution than that. So that's kind of just kicking off and pretty exciting. You know, ideally we'd have a geothermal power plant up there, but since we don't, we can emulate one. Another thing we've been doing is developing models or updating our models that some of you are probably familiar with to have geothermal functionality. So I won't go through all of these, but there are some models that are technology neutral, but didn't necessarily have geothermal well represented in them. Those are REEDS, REV, and ENGAGE. Those model power systems and capacity expansion. None of those had geothermal really well represented in them before, and now they do. REUPT is a sort of decision tool for renewable energy options. Again, didn't have geothermal, now it does. And then you might be familiar with GeoFires or GETA. We talked about that with a couple of people before. Those are our techno-economic tools. Conrad here is the author of GeoFires. And then we kind of down the spectrum of technologies, we have a lot of buildings tools that are used at NREL and throughout DOE and by external partners that didn't have geothermal in them either. So for example, UrbanOpt is a really powerful tool for modeling district energy systems, but it didn't have geothermal. So that's been a big focus of ours for the last few years. And just some kind of exciting outcomes is now we have this suite of tools. If anybody's interested in modeling geothermal district energy systems, we have this suite of tools that can support that, and they're all, for the most part, open source. You can just go use them yourselves. And it also now allows us to do some real robust analysis of the future.